could you share some of the ways in which you're using artificial intelligence right now in your business? Because I think some of them are really, really interesting. People would like to hear.
Yeah, most of it's kind of marketing focused, shall we say, although I've recently been just even research, like it gives you so much better responses than Google. You know, I've paid for the plus version of ChatGPT, for example, but, you know, I was on there at the weekend. I was like, okay, I'm thinking about writing roles, responsibilities, re-looking at the job descriptions for all of my team. So I was like, okay, write me a job description for an operations manager of a mortgage brokerage. Okay, what would be the top 5 KPIs that you would monitor? What are the KRAs and the objectives of that individual? And just kind of utilized it as almost that frontline template. As I was thinking the questions that I was asking myself, I was just asking ChatGPT to see what it would throw in. On a content marketing point of view, one of the things we've been doing is really kind of, this is a bit of a hack that you can leverage anywhere. But if you actually say to ChatGPT, for example, I'm going to give you a transcription from a video, and all I want you to do is read it and then confirm with a single yes that you have read it. And then we just paste and then we just paste the transcription in, and ChatGPT goes and says yes. And then you basically say to it, utilizing all the information that you've read above, can you do whatever you kind of want it to do next? Whether it's write a YouTube description or a podcast description, or create some template bullet points, or do me a 10-minute slide deck to present this to somebody. You can literally, off of the back of that, you know, you can start to get it to do the work of kind of restructuring or reorganizing quite a large piece of content. And then starting to play with it, you know, write it in the sign of a Disney character, just to bring it back to that for a little while. You know, you can do whatever you want, and it will do it if you ask it to. I'm just going to make that a theme of this podcast now, mate. I've already done it. I'm just going to do it.
That's fine. Yeah, but I could totally imagine how you'd end up with a presentation about mortgage brokerage and insurance, in which very early on in the stories and so on, the parents die. That's how you know that you're writing a Disney classic.
Hey pros, one of the hardest things when it comes to attracting your ideal client is knowing what to bloody post every single day on social media. So I have created a free guide for you that walks you through 30 tips for posting consistently for 30 days. If you follow the process that's in the guide, and then I've mapped out a day-by-day structure for you to post, you're never going to have a problem posting on social media ever again. So click the link in the show notes, grab a copy of my 30 tips ebook, and it'll be sent straight to your email address as soon as you have downloaded. Go and grab it right now.
I love those as examples, and it's really interesting because I think you know, a lot of people are kind of sort of hearing about this. Some people are starting to have a play. Some people are using it in their business in some of the ways that I know that you are. I think it's also interesting because people are discovering limitations. You know, when you first said, oh, you know, you can do research and in some ways it's better than Google, you know, you might have seen on my face, I'm like, oh, because there are definite ways in which it's terrible for research. I was sharing recently on social media about like asking it, you know, here's a lyric, or here's part of a lyric. Tell me what song, you know, finish the sentence with the lyric with what song it is. And out of 3 attempts, 1 it got right, and 2 it got wrong, but it looks like it's got it right, because it provides the lyric as if like, oh yeah, this is the song. Or like for one of them, it provided the correct lyrics but got the title of the song wrong. And of course you go, oh well, you're only having fun there. But there are examples where I've asked it for, say, statistics about number of businesses that there are in the UK, and how many of those have got a certain number of employees, and how many of those are female owned, male owned, you know, all these sorts of things. And it comes back really confidently, and will even provide sources and links and tell you what page number, the data that it's telling you are, the percentage and so on. And it's not true. It's like, they're a huge amount, like more than 50% is false. And so you have to be really careful with that sort of factual type research and so on. On the flip side, the way that you then describe that you use it, like creating the role description for an operations manager or whatever, is an awesome way to use it, because actually, firstly, it's you're not dealing with truth or fact there. It's, you know, these are ideas for what you could put in there. And secondly, the ultimate sort of gatekeeper for it is you. You're making sure that it's going to be the right answer. You're not going, oh, well, it said the answer was 1.7%, so that's what's going in. You're going through it going, I don't actually agree that these are my top 5 KPIs for this role, and so I'm going to make a couple of changes and so on. And I think the same goes for when you're transcribing a video and turning that different content. How are you, given those limitations, given that complexity, how are you enabling your business, your teams to be able to make use of this stuff without increasing risk in your business? With making mistakes and so on, or at the moment are you using it more personally and less across the team?
Yeah, so we've all got one login and we kind of share it, and they use it intermittently for the things that they need to. We're not using it necessarily so much for the research side. We're asking questions like you said and utilizing it in. So for example, we had a complaint from a client. So we said, can you read this following complaint? And then can you write a response, including these 3 bullet points, for example? And we just got it to do that. And it was like, that would have taken me 10 minutes to write that email, and it's done it in 2.5 seconds. So they're kind of utilizing it in that way to kind of just simplify remove the thought process of having to create everything from the front end. So it's doing 80% of the hard work and the heavy lifting, the first step. And then we're just tweaking the last 20 to 10%, depending on the complexity of what we're asking. But as a perfect example, I had brain freeze in January because it was obviously the baby had come home and I was tired, and it's the first, he's 12 weeks old now, having arrived at 32 weeks. It's child number 4, so I'm doing school runs, which I never used to, blah, 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 blah. Worries me. But I just basically chucked it in and said, I wanted to talk about like a CEO mindset to start the year, and just to get some thinking around for my coaching clients and my mastermind group, like having that CEO mindset. What does it mean to think on the business rather than in the business, to transition from, an operator, a technician, into actually being a CEO or the leader of a company? And I had complete brain freeze other than a couple of points. And I was like, right, give me 20 points on a CEO mindset for an individual running a £500,000 a year business. And, like you say, 3/4 of them, crap. 50% of them, maybe even crap. But it just gave me the thing that I wanted, which was just that little bit to get through the writer's block, shall we say, to then go, okay, cool. This is it. This is what I needed. Then the presentation was done in, an hour and a half thereafter. So I think that's the thing, is the research phase using your, caveat, but just a little bit of the hard work, heavy lifting to reduce the time in thinking, which is often what you hear. What do they say? I think I might have heard it's a fallacy, but Steve Jobs only wore black because it reduced the amount of time that he had to think in the morning, and all these kind of little hacks in time saving. Yeah, it's if you can save more decision energy for the big things when it hits the fan, then coming up with those initial ideas is a great way to use it.
Yeah, agreed. I really, really like that. And what about I love the fact that you've gone from having a business where marketing was the weakest area of it, where you were buying leads from elsewhere so that you could then pick up at the sales side, and it completely bypassed the marketing side. And now, as you shared, have written literal books on the subject of how to generate leads and do this really effectively in your industry. When you look at the opportunities for the use of artificial intelligence in marketing, how are you? What's the kind of approach that you're taking? Because one of the things that, as we say, AI can be really good at is for turning a blank page into a noisy one that you can then kind of filter from. But of course, the danger is that it's almost like it's providing an average of what's out there in the world. When it famously passed a business studies course, it did so at like a C+, like a passing grade, a kind of equivalent. It's not going to get you your A star unless you really put your own work into it and creativity and thought and so on. So I suspect that a similar thing applies to marketing, right? When we're talking about a good hook and a good call to action and so on, providing just the standard and what is already out there isn't going to get you the result. And that's an area that, you've really honed your skills and knowledge in. So how can other business leaders, how can they approach marketing specifically in that way? How do you make sure that you get the best of both worlds?
Yeah, and that's where using my analogy earlier of using your own language and your own transcription, I think is really key. So when you get it to read your transcription, for example, and then you get it to confirm yes, and then you ask it to maintain that tone of voice and the similar context, then it starts to maintain, utilize the same language patterns. It then resonates a little bit more with you. But the simple process that I look at which obviously the feature of the book is starting with, gaining clarity over your niche, your ideal client. And that can be great from a research point of view as to, yes, being mindful of the data that it spits out, but key information. What are some of the problems related to this? What are some of the objections? What are some of the fears, the pains this type of individual or personal product would have? Off of the back of that, you've then got ideas to create content to then utilize on social media. The premise of the book is gaining clarity, creating content, social media, marketing techniques, and then sales. Sales, the whole premise of the book is that if you do the first 4 steps correctly, then actually people come to you already sold. So then you don't have to sell. And we talk about the AIDA funnel. There's only 3% of people who are ready to buy now. So if you want to build a future-proof business and leads tomorrow, you need to start generating and building awareness today. And I talk about, like, for example, we're looking at our summer holiday. Well, we started looking at our summer holiday probably 4 weeks ago, and we probably won't make another decision for another couple of weeks. But we've been on the websites, we've been looking at the holidays, we've been researching hotels, we're looking at testimonials. We're asking friends where they've been, where's good with 4 kids, all this kind of, where can we get now potentially 1 room rather than 2, because that's a lot of requirements, and all these new things. So it's like everyone's doing research and investing 7 hours worth of time now before they're even going to the point of making a purchase, and they're doing it in multiple different places. So utilizing AI to take one piece of content and turn it into multiple different pieces of content, maintaining tone of voice, context, etc., is actually saving you a huge amount of time and is making it much more efficient to get a message farther and wider in a world that's more competitive.